Good afternoon, Pete. Here we are again, tasting wine with Pete and Dave.
Same time, same channel.
Same bet time, same bet channel.
Indeed.
Pete, the first wine we're going to taste here today is Dom Perignon, 2003. How about that?
That's pretty remarkable, actually, yeah, to have an opportunity to try something like this. It's the current release of what is effectively the Moet de Chandon flagship. It's their deluxe cuvée, and I guess, yeah, one of the most famous wines in the world. Everybody knows about Dom Perignon, but not everybody's really had a chance to try it. So, fantastic opportunity to try something as luxurious and as well regarded.
Now, getting this on the palate, already just get this real creaminess and this real sense of such a balance of character.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Well, I mean, even before you get to the palate, yeah, like on the nose, you're getting all of those brioche and yeasty sort of bakery smells. You know, a lot of depth in there, and then once you get it onto the palate, it's a seamless sort of style. It's beautifully balanced, like real intensity of flavour. Surprisingly delicate, I must say, for the fact that it's 2003, which is a pretty warm vintage in Champagne, and so it's been a little bit maligned as a vintage. And I guess, you know, you sort of think, well, okay, maybe the wine's not going to be as outstanding as earlier vintages have been, but then they've got the option of picking the best of the best, the cream of the crop, so
and
to
it
speak.
just goes on and on and on the palate.
And so that's really, really quite outstanding.
Absolutely lovely. Wow, what an opportunity to try that first off. Now, the next wine that we've got on the list here, Pete, is the Duperrey.
Yeah,
Again,
Duperrey, yep.
Another French champagne. This is a non-vintage.
That's right, yep.
This is a premium cru, and this seems to be very fruit-driven.
Yeah. Not as much of that autolysis yeasty sort of character that obviously you would have got, or that we did get in the Dom Perignon, but still, you know, a luxurious mouthfeel, if you like. A lot of fruit-driven character on the nose, quite delicate bubbles, all of those sorts of characteristics that people tend to look for in champagne, and, you know, quite understated, but yeah, really good fruit.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Two nice French champagnes. Now, we're going to come back home to Australia. We've got a little bit of Grant Burge here. Now, this is the Pinot Chardonnay.
Okay, another non-vintage.
Another non-vintage.
So, or a blend of different vintages.
And they claim that's a Méthode Traditionnelle.
Yeah, well, it is, and it's very widely respected. Grant Burge is a label, makes a lot of good wine, makes a lot of wine, and a lot of good wine.
I'm getting some lovely fruit on this Grant Burge wine as well.
Yeah, quite forward fruit characters, but again, good fruit. And, you know, the fact that they claim it to be made in the traditional manner is a fair claim to make. It's well-made wine. They make quite a lot of it, and it's easy to see why it's so popular.
Lovely mouthfeel.
Lovely mouthfeel, and a crisp, dry finish as well.
Very nice. Next one we've got here is a 2012 Verdelho from the Hunter Valley.
Tulloch Verdelho.
Tulloch Verdelho, yes.
One of the really famous old names of the Hunter.
We got some interesting lime characteristics on the nose here.
Yeah, we do. Verdelho is an interesting grape variety in that it's a style of wine that we often say to people, they come in and they say, look, I want something fruity, but I don't want it to be sweet. Then Verdelho usually fits the bill in that regard. This is interesting because you're getting a bit of lime, you're also getting some grassiness and almost a character that's a bit reminiscent of a Semillon Sauvignon Blanc, like a Margaret River style, which is unusual in Verdelho, yeah. And probably because it's really quite young, then you're getting that crisp, zingy, zesty, crisp, dry white sort of character. But that's it's still got plenty of, I guess, broad appeal. It's a very fruit-driven style. Sort of wine that would go really quite well with barbecues, you know, if there were white meats or seafoody type things floating around.
Yes, yeah. Or a good chef salad. All right, next one we've got on our list here is a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. Now this is a Villa Maria 2012 Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, so this is the mainstream of the most popular style of wine on the market today.
And I might add, Villa Maria are one of the most awarded winemakers in New Zealand.
Yeah, indeed they are.
And I get this real pungent passion fruit on the nose straight away, Pete.
Yep, absolutely. So really quite, grassy lantana leaf, but quite bold, ripe sort of characters as well.
Now, I don't get quite that zingy acid palate that I've had from many of the New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs in the past.
No, it's almost restrained, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not quite as in your face or as up front as perhaps the nose suggests. You sort of expect it.
But quite pleasant.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, the next wine we've got here, Pete, is Proximo. This is a Spanish Tempranillo, 2009 vintage.
Yep, okay.
From Rioja.
Yep, from Rioja. Marcos de Riscal, one of the old names in Spanish wine, one of the respected old names as well. And this is, I guess, for want of a better word, their entry-level wine. And it's a typical European style of wine, not just the fact that it comes from Spain, but it's the sort of thing that the Europeans have done very well for a long time, having this notion of a wine that you can just open and drink any time with any sort of meal at any time of the day. It's just part of what they do. It's part of their culture that we're starting to absorb a lot more of in Australia now. And at the end of the day, it's beautiful, bright fruit. There's hardly any oak in it. There's a little dusty, savoury edge to it.
Lovely fruit on the nose.
Absolutely.
Not quite as big as an Australian Shiraz or Cabernet, but there's still enough fruit there. That's some nice tannin.
Yep, absolutely. The sort of thing that you could feel comfortable opening with, with a pizza or anything else, but at the same time, you could dress it up, so to speak. If you had roast lamb with all the trimmings and this was going to be served with it, it would be a perfectly nice drink to have with that sort of dish as well.
All right, next one, Pete. Here we've got a Red Knot from Shingleback. Now this is a 2012 already.
Okay.
2012 Shiraz from McLaren Vale.
Yeah, so pretty young. This
Right,
is your
fruit.
Oh yeah, big gobfuls of fruit. Fairly uncomplicated. They would not have used a lot of oak in this, and that's to their credit because it doesn't need to have a lot of oak in it. And I think a significant step up, for example, from the previous vintage, which was cool and wet, 2011. They suffered, as indeed most of the warm climate parts of South Australia suffered, because the vintage conditions were cool and wet. This one, I think, needs a little bit of time to come into its own, so to speak, grow into its skin. It's very young. But I think by Christmas time, for example, it will have become a lot more approachable as a style of wine.
We'll watch it because it seems like they always win some medals. Right, and the last wine that we've got on our list here is the Chris Ringland Shiraz from Barossa, 2010 vintage.
Okay, so we're right at the end of the line, and we've found the heavy hitters coming into their own at this sort of point.
Big fruit, very juicy. The first time I tasted this, Pete, I couldn't get over that almost like tasting a mouthful of the juju bears. You know those big fruity juju bears?
Okay. Yeah.
Lovely fruit.
Whether that's a recommendation for a wine is perhaps open to interpretation. But yeah, you're almost getting a liqueured character.
Yes.
In terms of the red wine, the presence of that red wine across the palate, once you start to think about it in terms of having as a drink and what you're going to have with dinner, there's almost a liqueured, thick texture about it, which is quite appealing to a lot of people. You want that big, rich mouthful of wine, then yeah, you're certainly getting it in those.
Absolutely beautiful. All right, that wraps up another week, Pete. Thanks
No
a lot.
problem.
We'll see you again next week.
You will indeed.